This is Beyond the Resume, the podcast that brings you the stories, advice, and insights behind some of the most successful people in real estate. Beyond the Resume is brought to you by Jackson Lucas Executive Search, the industry leader in human capital solutions. Here is Chris Papa and Lisa Flicker.
Emily Kurtz, welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. Great to be here.
I've never seen you before. I've spoken to you on the phone before, but I've never seen you. And it's great to see you. The power of... I'm so sick of... I was talking to somebody yesterday on the phone, and he's like, I can't believe we're doing a phone call. It's so old school. I'm like, I know. Sometimes I have like fatigue. But you are the Chief Housing and Development Officer at RiseBoro Community Partnership.
That's right.
Yeah. Can you tell the world, millions listening across the world, about RiseBoro?
Yeah, sure. So RiseBoro is at its heart a community-based organization. We were founded in the late 70s, and we actually started out as a older adult center, also known as the senior center, in the heart of Bushwick. And our founder, Vito Lopez, noticed that while the seniors were well cared for while at the center for breakfast, for lunch, for activities, they were all dealing with some level of trauma or stress in their housing. And so, or they had grandchildren who needed after-school activities, or they required additional assistance in their home for activities of daily life. And so, from that relatively smaller population of older adults coming to the Ridge of Bushwick Senior Center at 319 Stanhope Street, from that grew a community-based organization that is providing services across 5 major pillars: housing, which I'm the most familiar with, but we also have a senior division. We provide Meals on Wheels and case management services. We have an empowerment division, which is doing anti-displacement, anti-harassment, anti-eviction, and also stabilization, financial planning, workforce development. We have our education division, which runs, I think, around 50 different programs. They have so many contracts, and they're doing after-school programming. We run a youth center. They do English as a second language, high school equivalency. So many different programs that they run through the education division. And we have a health division. And in our health division, we have community health workers that are out in the field helping members of our community access services. We run a food pantry. We also have a very large home health agency that is providing, again, assistance through home health aides to members of our community. So we're really broad. And in the housing division, we started out as tenant advocates, actually, way back in the 70s. Bushwick, which is where RiseBoro is born and bred, went through complete devastation. This was the summer of Sam. It was the blackout. Bushwick itself lost, I've heard different things quoted, but like a ton of real estate, both residential real estate and also commercial real estate, to arson and to looting. And it was devastated. The community was devastated. People stopped investing in their properties. There was a lot of disinvestment, absentee landlords, and so that's where as a housing division we started in tenant advocacy, but we grew from that and we started doing development, so real estate development and property management and on-site services to tenants living in our buildings. I joined RiseBoro myself in 2004. And by 2004, we were doing ground-up development, so new construction, primarily using the low-income housing tax credit. We also did a ton of preservation in Bushwick and also infill. So we did the infill at that time was primarily affordable homes, which we did in partnership with actually New York Housing Partnership. That's what it's called. So we did many affordable homeownership infill projects, and we also did a ton of preservation. So in Bushwick, these are 3 to 6 family homes where tenants have been living there for generations and generations. complete disinvestment by the prior landlord. The city got control and transferred control to nonprofits like RiseBoro. That was the bulk of what I worked on when I first started. The new construction were smaller, 9% low-income housing tax credit deals. And since then, we've just built up on our expertise. And today we have around 3,200 units under ownership. We have many, many units in our pipeline, and we're managing around 2,800 units of affordable housing. The affordable housing that we build, so we have those preservations of smaller 36 family homes. We have multifamily, so that's just any building basically that has an elevator is more than 20 units. We have a lot of older adult housing, and we also have supportive housing. And supportive housing, a number of the units are set aside for residents who require or who have the need for on-site supportive services.
Lisa was a little girl in Brooklyn in the 70s.
Yeah.
I was. I lived first in Coney Island, then in Sheepshead Bay. So I could have been one of your tenants. I mean, not yours, because you weren't probably not born yet.
We have fewer. We don't do as much in Coney Island, Sheepshead Bay, but we do have a project in construction right on the waterfront, actually, like 21st Street.
Nice. So I saw you went to Brandeis. I actually have some family members who graduated from there as well. Awesome place. When you were young Emily at Brandeis, did you think you wanted to kind of go into real estate, affordable housing? I know you ultimately got a master's degree at Columbia. So what kind of went on during those years?
Yeah, that's kind of what's the most amazing about the fact that I have found this career with one organization for the majority of my career. I didn't even know what urban planning was when I was undergraduate, which is like kind of amazing because in concept, I understood it. I grew up in Columbia, Maryland, which was a planned community. And so we drank the James Rouse Kool-Aid. Like I knew about James Rouse. I knew about Faneuil Hall and about downtown Baltimore as well. So I understood the idea of community development and of urban planning. I just didn't realize that there was a word for it. So in undergraduate, I started out as a sociology major and just needed something. Oh gosh, so maybe we take this part out, but I love my sociology classes. They were fascinating, but I didn't know what to do about it. And I didn't know, wasn't a number to crunch that I could crunch. And I felt like
you're a great recruiter. All sociology majors.
Are you guys both sociology majors? That's like me putting my foot in my mouth. But I needed something quantifiable, and sociology is not a quantifiable study. And so I took my first economics class. I think I took first semester sophomore year, and I was blown away. It was saw the world in such a different way from this intro to microeconomics, and I was hooked. And so I actually ended up with an economics degree. That was my major, and I minored in French because I went abroad and it was very easy to get the credits for it. And I liked French. And then I also got a minor in business.
Honesty.
What's that?
Love the honesty.
I mean, I got it was an amazing semester abroad, and also I got a French degree minor out of it. And I also have a business minor. Again, there's a lot of overlap between the economics program at Brandeis and the business program, so it was not that hard to do that as well. And when I graduated, I thought I wanted to work at a bank, but I have a funny story. I mean, since this is about career, so they do alumni interviews, and there was an alumni who graduated a couple of years ahead of me. I knew him, was at Goldman Sachs. And so I did an informational interview with him at our career center. And he says, so tell me about your favorite company. Like, what's your favorite company? And my answer was, this is this was very telling. I said, oh, well, I really admire Ben & Jerry's, because at Ben & Jerry's, the highest paid person makes no more than 7 times the lowest paid person at the entire company. So they're really about wage equity. And like, I didn't know that was a term back then, but just like the idea of it made so much sense to me. And he looked at me and he's like, okay.
Yeah, you should go to the Goldman Sachs Urban Investment Group.
Right. Not for profit that we could hook you up with, right? Like,
It was, so I actually, I ended up probably somewhere else that didn't make a whole lot of sense for me. I wanted to move to New York City. So I was looking solely at New York City jobs, and I got an offer. I mean, I was really all over the place. Like I had an offer for like a paralegal at a big law firm. And then I had an offer from IBM Global Services, which was for business analyst. I mean, it wasn't anything that I had. Actually, I wrote my, I guess there was some connection. I wrote my thesis. This is again going to be dating me. I graduated college in '99. So I wrote my thesis about the internet and whether you could sell things on the internet. Meaning like I was like looking at
Sell it out. Did
groceries.
you need to sell with Al Gore?
I was like looking I was looking at like booksellers, like so, like and groceries. I think at that point Peapod was a thing in Massachusetts. And so I wrote my entire thesis about like what would work online
Did you
and
predict Amazon?
there wasn't an Amazon.
I know, because you predicted it was a bookseller. It was a grocery store now.
I don't know. Like I certainly don't have the bank account to but so I guess that was probably the connection to IBM. I'm not sure I've ever made that. But so I went there as a consultant. I was basically a consultant, and it was like it was I was able to move to New York City independently, and I was able to pay my rent. I was able to have a life, and that to me was very attractive. Like being a 22-year-old, and being able to move to the big city with a job. But I was really unfulfilled, like from the very beginning. I met really great people there, but I just wasn't into the work in like any way. I was also underutilized, and so it just left me with a lot of time to think about what else I could be doing. And then I just started looking at graduate programs, and I was like, oh, this is like my mom. I once asked my mom, who's a social worker, I once asked her like what she would have done if she could have done anything. She's like, I would have been an architect. And I was like, okay, so let's start with architects. Like that's a place to start. And then looking at architecture programs, many of them are aligned with our planning programs. And I started reading about urban planning. I was like, oh my God, how did I not know this existed? This is like amazing. I want to do this. And it was kind of like that first economics class where I was like, oh, like I am connected to this in a major way. That's a very long story. Like,
It's very, I relate a lot to it. I actually, you had more guts than I did. I went and visited the Blaustein School at Rutgers, which is like one of the top urban planning schools. And I was like, I visited, I was like in a class, I'm like, this is amazing. I love this. And I got scared. So I'm like, what do you do? Oh, I needed a job. I didn't make money, or that was important to me. I kind of grew up a little without money. So I was like, I need money. That's important to me. And so I thought being a lawyer maybe. So I worked as a paralegal at a really big law firm in Manhattan on the real estate team. And I remember the work they did was the worst work I've ever done in my life. It was still awful. But then I remember we did the first Whole Foods deal in, bring it back to Amazon in New York. And I remember like visiting the Whole Foods. And I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. This part's really cool. So I was like trying to tie, like, how do you get from like being what I'm doing to like actually being involved with these projects? I'm now I do recruiting, but like I couldn't back in the day, like I think we're the same age. Like I was like, how do you get to build something like that? I had no idea. So you figured it out. I found it.
yeah, but I wasn't trying to. Like it was all like I would love to say that I had this big grand plan, but I've never had a big grand plan. Like I never knew what I wanted to do. I just found things that were interesting to me. And when I realized that something wasn't working, which luckily for me, I realized very early on, like I was a baby, right? Like I was so young, and I was young. I didn't have I had very supportive parents who said, do what you like, we'll support you through grad school. I'm very lucky. And I like realize how lucky I am to to be able to do that. And the other thing about my parents is that they had never said like, oh, you need to follow this path or that path. They just really wanted me to be curious about my and get a really great education. That's what they were focused on, and that worked for me. I don't think that works for everybody, but that was what I needed to be able to find my path. And even ending up in housing was kind of a fluke. I I worked very hard in graduate school, so I don't think it was a fluke that I did well in graduate school. But when I was looking for positions, so this was that now 2004, looking for positions, and I had written all goes back to the thesis. So my graduate thesis was looking at the choices that older adults who were moving into assisted living, how they were making those choices. Not just assisted living, but like continuing care, assisted living, independent living for older adults. When they're making this choice at the in their 70s or their 80s, how are they making the choice of where to live? And does transit or transportation have any impact on that? So I looked at an exurban independent living facility. I looked at a suburban independent living facility, and I looked at a urban independent living facility. And I spoke to the residents there and said, like, did you care that you could drive or that you couldn't drive? Like, were you worried about having access to transportation? All that. So that was what I wrote my thesis about. And so there was a job ad in the New York Times that a classmate sent to me. She didn't clip it. I think she emailed it, but it still is a New York Times job ad at the Ridgewood Bushwick Senior Citizens Council in their housing division. And I was like, oh, I think I could probably swing this. And like, but it wasn't even for a housing position. I was hired to do a build out of the community facility space of one of our buildings, and it was intended to be a daycare center. And so I was hired specifically to do this daycare build out and coordinate all the aspects of this daycare build out.
I think that's a good lesson for folks. I mean, we're recruiters, right? So I used to do a lot of like junior level roles. Lisa, if you ever do like a recruiting for like an asset management associate or something. And so you do those, and like everyone's like, all the young folks, they want to do acquisitions. It's much sexier. There's just a limited amount of acquisition jobs. Convincing these folks, like, just do something. Like, just take this job. Like, look at you. Like, you're leading in development and stuff now and real estate at this firm. Like, you started out building a daycare center. Like, who knew that there's a book called Be So Good They Can't Ignore You or something along those lines. You just do something well and you get, people recognize you, and eventually you could potentially move into the role. You're just not be there immediately, which is like, it's a hard lesson to tell them.
Yeah. And I think so we do a lot of work with students in universities right now. And I think it's an interesting thing because they grapple with careers in such a strong way, because kind of like you did, it's like, okay, I could go to one of these big investment banks or big institutions and make all this money. But then you kind of get on that hamster wheel and it's really hard to get off. And so it's interesting to see, like, people are afraid to look for like really what truly makes them happy or where they might have a passion, because they're afraid they're not going to be able to afford to live.
One of the reasons we do this is like, there's like this gap of like, and that's one of the reasons we work with universities. We consult with the universities because universities like are great at educating people. And then there's like this gap. And then there's jobs, right? And like, who's connecting that? Like, there's a career services that they're okay. But it's like, so one of the reasons we do this podcast is to show folks like, this is what the career is like and what do you do? So like, let's jump into that. Like, what do you do? What is your job?
So I'm the Chief Housing and Development Officer, which means like I lead all of our real estate development activity for RiseBoro. My job has changed a lot over the course of years, even when I was in the top seat of our department. So at one point I was overseeing property management and our supportive services team, and we just grew. Our supportive services team became its own division, basically, and property management is now with our operations team. So right now, what I'm concentrating on is real estate development. And in addition to that, I'm a member of the leadership team, the senior leadership team, and the executive team. So, I personally do a lot of supervision. Like, I think one of the most important parts of my job is supporting the team, like the folks on my staff. so that they can do their best work. And so having sat in the seat of project manager, having sat in the seat of director of real estate, I have a good sense of what all of those, what is entailed in all of those roles. And I try and support the staff. And what my staff is doing, or what our staff is doing, is they are taking a project from inception, from the thought, or from the RFP, request for a proposal, of some development project, some real estate development project. And they're taking it from the point of, again, like this, there's a thought, or someone comes to us with a deal and they say, what do you think about this? And they are working on every hickey-yoon detail, because there's a lot of just like paperwork and paper pushing. Every single detail, the design, the program, meaning who's living in this building, and what are the types of units that are needed to support the people that are living in this building. Are there services in this building? Who's providing those services? What is the neighborhood that this building is located in, and this project is located in? Who are the elected officials? Who are the stakeholders? Who do we need to talk to? All the aspects of pulling together a development project. And that's a totally different podcast. But all of those things, a project manager never knows the answer, but is in charge of getting the answer and making sure, if they don't know the answer, that they're figuring out who can answer it, and just pushing their buckets forward towards including financing. I didn't even talk about financing, so that we can get to what's called the construction loan closing. And that's when all the money comes in and all of the plans are final and all of the contracts and construction contracts are in place, and you have your regulatory agreement from all the agencies. The real estate deals in affordable housing are insane. There are like 18 different sources. You have worked out all of those things, and then you get to construction closing. And then the hard work starts, right? So that's what we're doing. We're creating affordable housing in the city of New York, and doing it any way that we can. And so that's like the like what I'm responsible for. And then as an executive at a not-for-profit, we're thinking very, big level, like what is our mission? How are we meeting our mission? How are the staff, like how are they meeting the mission, and what do they need for support to meet our mission? And then it's also like budget and HR and policies and procedures. So for me, that's like the best. It's a really good mix for me. I like to be involved in a lot of different things. My entire life, I've been a jack of all trades, really interested in many different things. So for me, this is a great position, because I get to have my hands in a lot of different things. I switch brains like constantly, and I think it could be like really like hard for some people that don't enjoy having to sit in like a legal, who wants to sit in a legal review meeting, but like sit in a design meeting, like looking at like how to get the trash out of the basement of our next project, to thinking about the strategic plan of an organization, to like having a conversation with HR because I need to provide more support for someone on my team. So I really love that. I know it's not for everybody.
If somebody wanted to follow that path, do you take interns? Do you take people out of college? What's the funnel end look like?
I struggle with that, because I kind of feel like how did I, like, was I in the right place at the right time? Like, again, I didn't have any plan. I just continued to do the work that I loved. And when people ask me, like, I taught a course about affordable housing at the urban planning program at Columbia University. And so I spoke with students who were like starting their career often. I would always say, because we talked about this earlier, like it's hard just to like jump in there and take a risk. Do it early. Like hop around. Like to get 2 years with a city, get 2 years with a bank, get 2 years with a nonprofit. You might want to start at the nonprofit because it's harder to go back to nonprofit salary after you've been working at a bank. But like get all of that experience. I think that in terms of real estate development with affordable housing development, I think some of the best folks I have seen have spent time in property management, even like, because that is a hard job. And if you understand how the building needs to run after and like how hard that is, you are going to be a much better developer. And so, some of the people I know through the industry that are really the best at what they do work frontline property management, frontline supportive services,
Right.
work at the city. That's what I think people should do. I don't know how many job paths can follow my exact job path, because I think I'm somewhat unusual, having been in the same place for, it'll be 22 years in June.
I guess what are like the junior people on your, I guess they're like junior property managers, junior resident services, junior project managers. Like those are the type of folks that kind of come into the organization early.
Yeah. So we hire our project managers like with 1 or 2 years of experience, and sometimes straight from not really straight from undergraduate. It's usually undergraduate plus a couple of years of experience, or straight from graduate school. There's a lot of on-the-job learning on our team. And then, what I've seen is they tend to leave after like 2 or 3 years and they do their next thing. I think you can have a very long career here at RiseBoro. Obviously, I have, but I also, I think it's good so that's the question was like those are kind of our entry level jobs. As we grow, I think we'll probably add an assistant project manager and start to hire entry level as an assistant project manager, as we're going to be demanding more out of our project managers. And I also think our industry, you guys probably see this, everyone calls like a project manager at RiseBoro and a project manager like with an organization that has in-house construction is a totally different job. Right? The project manager at some organizations that have in-house construction management, they are, they've got 5 or 6 years of experience and can run a construction job. So like, it's like, I think, titles really like differ.
What are you seeing as far as like, I'm on the board of on the fund development committee of a nonprofit housing firm in the Bay Area. And I know, well, there's especially tons of struggle now. I mean, there's always struggle with money, right? Trying to more money, but like, what are the challenges that you're facing now? And I guess kind of the road ahead and the vision for like, there's a lot of challenges now, like on the federal side with going to nonprofits, and cutting SNAP is like causing so much pain and heartache for a lot of people across the country. Like, what are you guys doing as an organization, and what's the goal for growth?
Yeah, but actually the SNAP, that's really, that one is really, we're coming together. Sorry, I just got distracted. Julio, you have to cut this part out.
No, we love this favorite part. He does outtakes.
Exactly.
End of the year outtakes. It's always people with the camera. You don't have to add if this is too like, I don't know. People are
No, I'd be happy to answer it. Yeah, so I think there's 2 different things that I'm focused on. One is rising costs and maintenance and operations in affordable housing, not in just affordable housing, just in general across New York City. Like our costs are rising much more quickly than our rents are, and our rents are regulated, so we are very restricted. It's affordable housing, so that makes sense, but we're restricted in how much rents can go up, and the operation cost is greatly exceeding that rise in income. So that's being driven by primarily the insurance market, but everything else as well. It's just it's much more expensive, and so that is, I think, from our affordable housing portfolio, that is an existential crisis, that we are bringing in less revenue than we need to pay out to pay our bills, to pay our mortgage, et cetera. So that is something I'm very, very focused on, along with many people in the affordable housing industry in New York. And then there's the shutdown of the federal government, which is devastating to low-income communities. Tomorrow will be SNAP benefits are cut off tomorrow. We have so many families in our buildings, in our neighborhoods, in our communities that rely on SNAP benefits. So if you take out which is generally income. It's like it's furloughing someone from income. How is that going to impact them? It's going to impact their ability to pay rent. It's going to impact their ability to pay for any of the other essential items that they need on a day-to-day basis. It's cruel. It's really cruel to take away these benefits from low-income families. So what RiseBoro is doing is, we do have we have a food pantry, and we are trying to increase our efforts through our food pantry. We're asking for, we've put out a request for donations. I guess if folks are listening to this, go to riseboro.org. We would love your support to further our efforts through our food pantry. And we're going to be in touch we're going to continue to do the work we do every single day. It's just that there are going to be more people that need it. And, I really hope that, that the shutdown does not, I really hope that that there can be real consequences for our neighbors, real consequences that are very easy to say, oh, SNAP benefits are getting cut off. But I just really hope that they get their act together and get the government going again, because we need this funding in our communities.
Right.
And I also have a hope in my life that maybe private donors who have supported less government activity will now step up and show, you know what?
That would be ideal, right? That could streamline everything. I mean, if people actually did that, if trickle down economics actually worked, that would be awesome.
So, from where I sit, my big outgoing message is you know what? This is the time, guys. I think to myself, I was a kid on food stamps. What would have happened if they took that away from me when I was 5? You could argue what my parents were doing, but for a 5-year-old kid, that is devastating. And so, the hope is that this is a chance for Americans to step up, and the ones who can do the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I also our government also has a responsibility to take care of our neighbors. So all of it, yes to all of it.
All of it.
Well, Emily, if you think being the head of real estate at a nonprofit housing agency in New York City during one of the federal government shutdowns is hard, you ain't seen nothing yet, because you just sat on the hot seat.
So easy one to start you off.
It's going to get much harder.
It's going to get much harder. Do you have a book or podcast recommendation?
So I'm an avid reader, and I include audiobooks because it's the only way that I will get them in. So I was just checked. I'm on book 61, 62, and 63 currently, because I have 3 books going. My favorite book of this year was Demon Copperhead. It was phenomenal. I listened to it as an audiobook, and I have a soft spot for Appalachian fiction in general because of where I grew up, but I highly recommend it. So that was my favorite book of this year.
Genre of Appalachian fiction. That's awesome. Do you listen to any podcasts? I'm always looking for new recommendations.
So I was an avid podcast listener, and then I decided to start reading again, and so now almost all of my audio time is taken up with audiobooks. When I really like Pop Culture Happy Hour, I'm not much of a self-help podcast listener. But yeah, Pop Culture Happy Hour is one of my favorites. With my kids, we listen to oh my gosh, what's it? Shoot, I can't remember what it's called. What's that?
No. Wait, don't tell me.
No, I do listen to it sometimes. I listen to that on the radio, though. I'm old school.
My son and I listened to that. We actually went to Chicago and went to a filming last summer.
Oh, I've been to a filming of wait. I saw I think was that BAM. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up. Well, we can go on
to doing some live recordings.
What's that?
I said maybe we should start doing some live recordings.
We're gonna go on the road. I don't want to take the podcast on the road. He'll his house though, so we can't do it.
No, I don't. The podcasts that we listen to are super not appropriate for most people, I would say.
The porno podcast.
Doughboy. Doughboys. Have you guys listened to Doughboys? It's like two comedians that just talk about like the fast food restaurants that they go to when they have guests on, and it also again, yeah, you're not going to get like any,
Deep.
and I don't go very deep on my podcast. No.
You know what? Life's deep enough.
Definitely
Enjoy
not
it.
even deep. You've gone deep. So now, many of us folks, we're busy. You're a mother, you got a very high powered job. I feel like life gets crazier and crazier. We're all connected more with the phone and the internet and everything. And it's just like, there's no, for me at least, it's like, when is it appropriate for me to step away? Like, do you have anything in your life where you like do regularly just to like remind you that you're a human being living your life in this world right now?
Yeah. I used to drive to work, which is awful. Like driving in Brooklyn and then finding parking is like the worst thing in the world. And so I stopped that and I started commuting to work. And I know it sounds insane that commuting to work is like a way that I make myself feel. I commute to work. I listen to my audiobooks during that commute. I am able to separate from the workday and I get some exercise. And so that actually, I really love commuting to work. I don't, who knew? Like, that's like a weird thing that happened. I also,
You get to be with the common people. I love it. It's like, this is what it was like when I was just a normal person.
yeah. And I really treasure my weekends. And I have a certain rituals on the weekend, which include like waking up on Saturday morning and getting a walk in or a run in the park. I go to a farmer's market and I just really treasure that time off. I separate from
Right. Yeah. It's so hard
work.
to do.
Yeah.
Especially in a job like ours where there's like tons of different points of contact and everyone's trying to get hold of you.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll treat my weekends like catch-up work. And it's like, then I'm just miserable.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to, but like there are certain things like I wake up, I get my coffee and I sit on our couch and I look out the window and there's this nice big beautiful tree and my cats are there and I like start, like I do a little bit of meal planning. I don't know, it just feels like I can like center and be normal, and then also no one else in my house is awake. So there's it's also that, like, and if someone wakes up within my time where I'm like drinking my coffee and meal planning and looking out the window, I'm just like, I might get a little bit annoyed. So yeah, those are probably those are the things. Yeah.
What do you look for in hiring someone? I assume you probably bring on talent now and again.
Yes, I do. So I tend to look at fit first, which, so I really want someone who's going to fit in with our team. As long as there's like, you meet the minimum requirements of the job description, that is something that's really important to me. Like the question I always like to ask is, like, what would your seatmate or the person that you eat lunch with, or how would they describe you as a colleague? That's really important to me, how someone's going to get along with the rest of their team. The nature of our work requires a very strong team dynamic. And so that is generally what I'm the most focused on. Again, as long as they meet minimum requirements.
Are you in the office 5 days a week?
Yeah, 4 or 5 days a week. We have a 1-day work from home policy, and I don't love working from home. Actually, I hate working off a
No
laptop.
commute when you work from home.
That's right.
It's not a joke. I don't get my steps in. I don't move, and I'm not as like, and not,
I'm in an
yeah.
office right now, 15 minutes from my house. I could.
Yeah. I tend to be, and I've been back in the office. I came back to the office like July 2020, I should say. I couldn't take it anymore. There were too many of us in our apartment and I was like over it. So I came back pretty early to the office.
What about mentors? Like, we all know, like, we don't do this alone, any of it. Any mentors you want to give a shout out to, or your life?
Yeah, the folks that have been the most impactful as mentors, I mean, I've had many and I could name many, but I think the group that I would like to promote the most is a group called Women in Housing and Finance New York, which is an organization that I've been very involved in. I was on the board of it. I was on the executive board, and it's probably been the most impactful group to my career. Not really my career, just like my ability to navigate the affordable housing community in New York. So my shout outs to Women in Housing Finance New York, and in general, I would say find an organization where you're comfortable and you can learn from the people, and they can really help you answer questions about anything that could be going on in your career.
Thank you for listening to Beyond the Resume, a Jackson Lucas podcast where we take a deep dive into the career journeys of some of the top minds in real estate and equip you with the knowledge to move forward in your path towards the success you've envisioned. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Beyond the Resume. We're grateful for your support. All episodes of Beyond the Resume are brought to you by Jackson Lucas, building inclusive and diverse businesses through talent acquisition. Visit us at jacksonlucas.com.